Hey everyone, this is Steve Weintraub with Collider, and I'm here at our Sundance studio in Park City. I want to give a huge thank you before we get started to Filmio for being our sponsor here at Sundance and helping to support independent cinema. Without them, we wouldn't be here this year, and I'm really sincerely grateful. If you're not familiar with film.io, which is behind us, they are shattering barriers by placing the power to greenlight films in the hands of creators and fans. You can learn a lot more about film.io by going to the website. And on that note, how are you guys doing?
I think we're all doing pretty damn good. Now I'm really interested about Filmio.
Right. Well, I mean,
reason being because, we're in music, you're in film, but so how do the fans or the audience get these projects green-lighted? Because you see where I'm going here?
Oh, 100%. And and I really mean this sincerely, it is very expensive to come to Sundance and cover and support independent films because Park City is just a really expensive place. And without film.io or Filmeo, like we really wouldn't be here this year. And I want to open that door, but I also want to talk about Lollapalooza so bad. So I will just say that for people that want to learn more, the website's there. And also when this interview is over, people from Filmeo are here and they can absolutely answer your questions. And I'm only trying to, promote, what I mean?
We got you.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a bunch of questions, but I like throwing some curveballs at the beginning. You have an amazing resume of music. If someone hypothetically has never heard any songs that you have done, what is the first one you'd like them starting with and why?
I would probably change the answer daily, right? But last night, as an example, there was a gentleman, told me he was 56. And he said, your song Jane Says meant a lot to me. He said, it still does mean a lot to me. And I understood what he meant, and just to know that there was a song when a person needed a song like that, when they're at their worst or at their lowest, the only thing I could think of other than like the top surgeon in the world would be the top musician in the world to heal his broken heart,
First of all, that song is like one of my favorites that you've done. But second of all, I can't imagine what it's like for you to have created works of art. Music is works of art that has impacted people on just a daily basis, and they go to it to make themselves feel good or to, you know what I mean? It must be an amazing feeling.
It's like being a vitamin.
That's an interesting analogy and very true.
So I like walking around town feeling like a vitamin.
So listen, I want for everyone. I'm so happy you made this, and the first 2 episodes were fantastic. But Thank you. I'm so curious. How did you decide? It's ultimately a 3-episode series.
Yes.
So how did you decide it was going to be a 3-episode series? Did you know that going in, or was it based on the footage you had and the story you wanted to tell?
Yeah, I'll take a swing at this. I mean, the truth of the matter is, it's a really hard decision, and there's a version that is 300 episodes of this. Sure. We had mountains and mountains and mountains of incredible footage. We wanted to make sure that the film explored all the topics that we explored, and we wanted to make sure that it did that at a brisk pace, and we didn't want to be too luxurious in it. But honestly, it was one of the harder decisions of the whole project for me personally, was how to let go of some of the storylines we had to let go of in order to make this film the way we knew it should be made.
And for people listening, I realize most people watching this will have not seen the show yet, the Docuseries. Yeah. So who wants to bite the bullet and explain through the log line of what it's about and what people can look forward to?
Well, Lolla, the Story of Lollapalooza is just in the nutshell it's the story of the entire history of Lollapalooza, which started in 1991 and started as Jane's Addiction, Perry, and the band. It was supposed to be their farewell tour. And they brought together acts that weren't playing big venues, but together as a force, as the entire lineup that they had, they were able to play these larger shows and were a traveling festival, which festivals had been dead in America since Altamont in the 1960s. So they do this festival. It actually is a huge success, and what it does is it does exactly what you would hope something like does. It brings the underground up from being the underground to like actually people experiencing art in a way they'd never experienced it before. And Perry had the foresight to continue to break these new bands, these new acts, these new artists in ways that nobody had ever done before. And it carries through all the way to today.
Perry, one of the things I think a lot of people will not realize or will forget is when you put this together, this was before the internet. And one of the things that I think that a lot of people...
In fact, the year Lolla broke, the internet broke.
Well, I want to...
It was that year.
I want to specifically talk about the fact that one of the things that I thought was so amazing that you did with the festival and do with the festival is highlighting groups like, whether it be the Right to Vote or PETA or whatever the groups are, you can be specific, but having them at a festival like that, and you were exposing these groups and to people that might not normally get it in different parts of the country because, again, before the internet.
Yeah. Well, it presented some challenges, obviously, but it also did some things that, I'll give you an example. You ever show up at a party and it wasn't supposed to be a very big deal, but it ended up, might have been 25 people there, not a super overcrowded party, wasn't overhyped, but then you were there and you started meeting these really interesting people and they knew the music to play, they knew the discussions to have. And then you end up thinking back on that night and you're going like, God, that was one of my favorite nights. But, I couldn't have almost afforded all the richness of that night. So what was beautiful about what we had to do is we had to work with the fact that there was no easy sell. We couldn't ram it down your throat. It had to be word of mouth. So it had to be the right people. And I always say the best parties, they're always generated by people that know great music, draw those people that love great music, and they become your friends and they become part of, then that becomes the culture. So that handicap actually did great things for us because it wasn't easy to find. It was out of the way. So when you found it, that was the great feeling.
One of the things I think that people don't realize when you're making a series like this is you need to clear all the footage, and the clearing.
Next
of the,
question.
Right, and the clearing of the footage is sometimes very challenging, or you can lose things because you can't clear it. So, did you end up talk a little bit about the challenges of clearing, and was there stuff that you are so disappointed you couldn't do because you ultimately couldn't clear it?
We were incredibly lucky at what we were able to clear. First of all, we were incredibly lucky in what we found. We had remarkable footage. I mean, you've seen it, right? It's sort of like an onslaught. It just keeps coming at you with, I can't even believe we have this on camera and that it's in this movie now. So we were enormously successful in finding stuff and enormously successful in being able to clear it. But yes, of course, there are challenges with all of that. What we couldn't the shot I couldn't clear that I really missed was that Trent Reznor 9 Inch Nails performance where he's like crawling like an inchworm across the stage covered in dust when he has that big show after, no spoilers, but he's having a great performance. There
was another camera that we couldn't clear.
Yeah, and so it was just so beautiful, but we had all this other incredible stuff. So no one's ever going to miss that thing that we couldn't clear because that scene last night, I was like, this scene's it's almost better without it because it was so well edited. And so it was definitely a challenge. A lot of people did us a lot of favors. Perry's got a lot of goodwill out in the world. And I think a lot of the people who were holding on to that footage understood that if this is the moment to let us use this footage. And so people did us a lot of favors. We had an incredibly talented group of people working on it. So
one of the things I was thinking about as I was watching Lollapalooza is I was comparing it to Sundance a little bit because, and let me go with this, and I normally, it's a little, might be an extended question or a statement, whatever. Like with Sundance, Sundance does an amazing job championing independent cinema, but they surround it with like big stars in smaller movies. Yeah. And with Lollapalooza, there's a lot of like smaller bands, but ultimately like you have to have, I think, someone at the top, or there has to be a band. For some people, like they know they're going to get that, but they're also going to get all these other cool acts. So can you sort of talk about, was that ever in the beginning stages, in the first few years, can you sort of talk about that, or as the festival has grown, that like do you know what I mean? Like it's the mixture of indie and a little bit of popularity, and that melting pot allows you to do these things.
Yeah, there's a balancing act for sure. And in the end, I think we make a pretty good team. There are people working at analytics. I'm not one of them. I go, nice thing is I still go by my heart and by my ears. If I can hear something that turns me on, then I'm certain it's going to turn other people on. It doesn't matter if 10 people know about them yet, but I know, I can hear they should know about them. And when they know about them, when they hear them, when they see them, again, they'll never forget it.
Can you all talk about why is now the right time to tell the story and not say 10 years ago, or not, you know what I mean? Like, what is it about this moment?
Can I take this one?
This is your favorite one to take.
I love this question. Yeah. Okay, so I was 17 years old in 1991, and I saw the first Lollapalooza. But prior to seeing that, I was sort of stuck in the doldrums of suburban America. We were seeing a lot of turbulent times at that moment. There was this ultra conservative movement going on in America. We were watching the environment start to really catch fire. The realities of police brutality had come into headlines with the Rodney King video, which was eye-opening for those of us who didn't live in a city. And me and my weird little artist friends were pissed as hell about what was going on, but we thought we were alone on that. And so I went to Lollapalooza to see one of my heroes, Perry, and all the other incredible bands that were on that bill. And suddenly I see these activist booths, and I see these kids moshing and stage diving. Like I had seen that, but I saw it at the VFW hall in my hometown with like 30 people in the audience. Suddenly it's thousands of kids doing it. And I knew if there's thousands of kids in Mansfield, Massachusetts.
Oh, you went to Great Woods.
Yeah, I'm from Mansfield, Massachusetts, believe it or not. Right. We'll get there in a second. But I knew if there were thousands of... We won't get there in a second. I knew if there were thousands of kids in my hometown who felt like I did and were that pissed off, then that meant there were millions of us across America. And I think that Lollapalooza sort of pulled us all into one room, and we all were like, holy shit, we are all feeling this way. And I really feel like Gen X was... identified that day, and so it was just this moment. And then I also feel like one of the reasons why this film is so important right now is I feel like Gen Z is going through a lot of the same things we were going through back then with the Supreme Court and Clarence Thomas. Like, it's insane, the environment, police brutality. It's all these same things that are hitting right now. And so last night at our screening, a bunch of Gen Z kids came up to me and they're like, thank you for making this movie. It really struck a chord with me. And I said to them, I was like, good, I'm glad it did, because I feel like you guys are up against a lot of what we were up against, and maybe you can learn from what we did right and what we did wrong. So that's my hope for this series.
Does anyone else want to add?
Well, I think that the illustration of youth culture is, I can't think of another documentary that highlights the youth culture over the course of 30 years. Right. And to be able to see the passion that all of these kids had when I was a teenager in the 90s, wanting to see my favorite band and discovering new bands, which is like coming to Sundance and discovering new filmmakers. I never thought about looking back and seeing, oh, there's all these similarities, and you see this growth over the course of 30 years. And that's one of the things that became a discovery in making this series. Like, I don't think we realized just how impactful it was to be able to see generation or kids year after year after year come and celebrate and look for and discover their favorite bands.
Can I add
Please.
something to this discussion? You know, when we're growing up, us boys, we like to, think about, maybe I'll be a baseball player or maybe I'll be a football player. You're not big enough to be a football player or a basketball player. What do I do now? The world of sports is there from the earliest age. If you want to be an athlete, the colleges have you covered, the high schools have you covered. But if you want to be an artist, if you want to be a musician, man, you're gonna have a rough life.
You can swear.
You're on your own. And so I noticed early on, I had the chance to see this firsthand because the generation before me were driving around in their own planes, you know what I mean? And it said Zeppelin on it. I'm like, fuck, man, that sounds like fun, right? No, by the time Jane's came around, we were on a Winnebago, like drawing, dicks on each other's heads. It was a different world. You had to do it because you loved it. But the point I'm trying to make is there is no system for an artist. There's a system for athlete. There's not a system for a musician or an artist. So I wanted to create a system where you can be 15 years old. We'll get you in a club. We'll get you recording. You're talented. You know what I mean? Your artwork is incredible. And in fact, it's raw and it's truthful because you got nothing to lose because you got nothing. So tell me the truth. And I've always maintained, since '91, that we were that kind of like farm league, bringing up the musicians and the artists. They're so important because without them, the truth just gets covered up right away. And again, 91, the World Wide Web hit. It's just so easy to fool the public. And that tool, I think we're going to get the tool right. There's a reason why our generation got this tool. We're the right people to deal with it. But we're taking on monsters. We're taking on people that have no regard for the environment. They just want power. And how they get their power? I don't give a shit. Let's chop down the rainforest. Right. So that's who we're up against. And the people that can stop them, it sounds funny, like, musicians should be wearing superhero costumes, but we take it on. We take on the problems of society. And we also take on, we'll party you out too. We're invaluable in that way.
Yeah.
But in the future, we will find better and better systems. Like I have another project coming up, Heaven After Dark, and it's all about dance music, but collaborating with young dance musicians and putting on parties there. We need that Petri dish. The artist needs that place to grow. And, it ought to be in schools. When I was a little kid, I know they allowed me to pick up a trumpet and then they made me give it back. But at least there was music program.
There was music programs when I was growing up.
Yeah, but there's no music. They're all gone now. And so it's even more difficult to find those gems. You need people like Lollapalooza and our team that care and love and understand the importance of how the value. It is so valuable to have a perspective of an artist and a musician. Without it, I mean, I was about to just make a joke that would be just too easy to make you all laugh. But without it, the world would just be just ugly sound.
That's why I love this film, this series, is because I feel like what he just said is articulated so well in it, and it's documented, and now everyone could go find that and see that struggle.
Yeah, I think that, I didn't think I was going to bring up Taylor Swift in this, but I thank
Here we
Taylor
are.
Swift for how many people she has registered to vote on her tour. I mean, I think she's registered like 1 million people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, like, I really appreciate, because musicians
that.
really can influence, especially a lot of younger people, you know, and you were talking about, and I think about everything you've done for generations with Lollapalooza and how many people you've influenced and impacted. And I say thank you.
Thank you. Well, I love all that, but I love just as much the idea that, we gave them sun, we gave them light. Now the world knows who they are. You know, they've partied to them. They know what they're about, and there's your culture. It's in the art. It's in the music. That's where culture is. It literally is like the Petri dish. There's culture there. There's culture.
Oh, man. Love it. Great answer,
so-
as usual.
I was going to say that I have a lot of questions, but I'm basically out of time. I'm just going to ask this. I think this might be my last question. Lollapalooza has put on such amazing artists through the years. And I'm curious, do all of you have a favorite year of the festival and the lineup? Or is it sort of like, you know what I mean? Like, was there one year, and I think more for you, was there one year you're like, I can't fucking believe this was our lineup?
You know, if you showed me a page, I would go, like the other day, darling Etsy, when we were talking about all those people were on that same year, and it wasn't even a year that anybody like really talks a lot about. Do you remember that? What year? Who? Okay, Muse, Eminem, Arctic Monkeys. Was it Dead Mouse?
Already, that's a
I mean, can
crazy
you believe,
lineup.
like there they are. They're all there, man, out in the field. All we got to do is kick back and listen. Can you believe all that talent was there? But it becomes harder and harder every year, because what we fight is that internet. That internet threatens to drown us out. So we need to be always, I always say this, team. We need to be unified. We need to be really strong, because, you know, money, the only way to beat money is music and art. That's it.
On that note, I need to wrap with you guys. I'm just going to say, and I really mean this, this is a really, really fantastic I've seen 2 of the episodes, and obviously as soon as you want to send me the third, I'll watch. But first 2 episodes are fantastic, and you guys did a great job, and I really hope it's a huge hit for you guys and
Thank
people
you.
watch.
Yeah,
Paramount,
thank you so
it'll-
much.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be Paramount Plus soon, very soon. All 3 episodes.
Across the globe.
Yeah, and that's actually also really cool about streaming. It's
Yeah.
all over.
Yeah.
You know. On that note, have a fantastic Sundance. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much
much
for
for your
coming
time.
in.
Thanks for having us.